Good evening, my name is Hugh Knight. I'm the Fechtmeister of Displacing. Tonight we're going to do a quick little video. Recently the head instructor from the Australian group, the drop bears as we call you, came up here for a visit, and working with him I noticed some issues that I think are probably endemic throughout the entire group down there. So I wanted to touch on some of those quickly so that you've got a video tool to look and understand what we're talking about. And specifically what we're going to address is the way you bind and the way you cut, and how those two things make the cuts effective or not effective, if that makes sense. All right? So the first thing we're going to look at is what are the mechanics of cutting. Now we've talked about this in a number of videos that I put up already, but let's review them very quickly. So if I'm going to do a Zornhau, all right, first of all note that I am using a saber grip, not a hammer grip. All right, that's something I noticed. All right, so you need to have a saber grip like this, not a hammer grip like that. So from my saber grip, I'm going to cut. Now when I cut, notice that the very first thing that moves is the point. Before anything else goes, the point goes. Then I drive my right hand forward and I step after I start the cut. And I cut on a 15-degree angle. So you're cutting from his temple to his mouth to his knee. Now you don't cut that far because we're not armatiers and we know better than to overcut. But imagine a dotted line crossing your target. That's the line you want to cut on. And it really matters. That angle of attack really affects how your cut goes in or doesn't go in. But notice something else. When I cut, look where my left hand ends up. My left hand ends up well over in front of my left chest, okay? It doesn't end up here. And when you end up here, what happens is you haven't closed the line of attack. So if I'm fencing with Chris, and he cuts in a straight line with his hilt in the middle, watch what happens. He gets hit, okay? Nothing he can do. He's gonna get hit every single time, okay? So you want to bring your left hand over. Now remember that the cut isn't done with your arms, it's done with your hands, okay? And we think about it doing with the arms because that's how we cut, right? But if I go to cut Chris a second time, from this side, notice that my arms didn't move at all, right? So Chris is going to displace this first cut and I'm going to cut him again. And watch how I don't use my arms to do it. Okay, just my hands. Now, I've been told by a lot of the guys who like to think of themselves as martial arts experts that you got to do the big cut because otherwise you won't cleave him from his head out through his toenails. If you cut 1 inch into a guy, the fight's over. That's all you need. And what I want to do is I want to stay safe because watch what happens. If I pull back like this, I'm dead. But if I do it my way, he may be able to stop my cut, but he can't hit me because my sword remains in my way. Do you see that? I cut out like this. My sword is still right here. He can't hit me. I'm covered in. But if I pull back, I'm dead. All right? So you can see then why that left hand coming over here matters. Now let's show you how it works. So I'm going to cut Chris. Okay? Now I cut pretty well. But Chris can stop every single one of my cuts. And in fact, we did this once, maybe a couple of years ago, where I just went into class and I said, I'm going to hit you. And I hit all these guys as hard and as fast as I can go. And eventually they finally got it and they went, oh, I don't want to get hit anymore. And they were able to stop every one of my cuts because it doesn't take strength or speed. Art is what defines art. So let's look at that. So I'm going to cut really hard and really fast, and Chris is just going to stop it. And nothing I can do can make it work. Okay, the last thing I want to address is I frequently see guys cutting into the sword to bind it, right? So I cut, and Chris doesn't aim at me, all right? When you bind correctly, I want you to watch something. Chris is going to cut me, and first I'm going to cut into the bind. I'm going to do a bind, right? But the second time, Chris is going to not try and hit me at all, and you're going to see Chris, come like on this angle so they're getting it this way. you're gonna see that I don't do it any differently. I do exactly the same thing both times. So Chris cuts, and I displace. Now Chris is gonna cut, and he's just gonna swing out of the way. Right? 15 degrees, hand over in front of the left chest. Okay? So, but anyway, if he binds into my sword instead of cutting away, right? All I have to do from here is schnappen, because he has cleared the line. He's no longer threatening me. He's no threat. I can come right through. If he's here where he's supposed to be, I can't do that. Now I can bend him, right? But that's a whole different kettle of fish. Now we're moving into the place of the creek, the main part of the fight. Okay? So I hope that helps. But I want you to see that that's the only way you can stop a good cut. And if you do it right, it's easy to do. Right? It's absolutely no effort at all to stop his cuts. I'm literally holding the sword like this. Okay? I hope that helps. Talk to you soon.